Hello and welcome to my new Delhi build order guide. The first Delhi guide is a while ago and we have learned much since then, and I'm eager to teach you everything I've learned with Delhi, who according to my most recent tier list is now a top 3 civilization. Let's jump right into it with a sample game of Delhi versus French on Dry Arabia. When the game starts, we'll immediately make a mill and a lumber camp. Let's go. We're gonna make 5 on a mill at the berries. The scout is immediately gonna go pick up sheep. We'll branch off with 1 villager and he makes a lumber camp. Here's the plan this game. We're gonna be developing our economic upgrades early, but progressing fairly normally afterwards. After making a single new villager, we train a scout. The villager is going to go to the mill as well. We keep looking for sheep. We immediately start the economy upgrades in the mill whenever possible, and our next villager is going to go to gold and construct a mining camp. The moment you have time for it mentally, make a house that is not blocking the middle of your base, where you are in the future planning a mosque. Choose 2 different itineraries for your scout. You can cut across the map or you can clear the edges. Try to come up with a plan that kind of makes sense for you as you start forestry upgrade the moment your lumber camp is done. We have a 6-1 split right now, and our next villager is going to gold. Pick up sheep along the way, try to double tap the number of your scout, control group 2 and 3 for me, repeatedly to see if there's any sheep on the itinerary that you could be missing. We're going to send 2 villagers to gold now, and then no more. Then everything into food again. I'm cutting across the path with 1 scout and the other is doing edge clearing. The moment we have 100 wood, we're going to make a mosque with our lumber camp villager. He needs 2 more trips in order to get there. The reason we have double scout is to get information, be aware of potential attacks, pick up sheep for ourselves for the future when the berries run out or when we get harassed on our berries, so that we can fall back to the relative safety of our town center. And we're also doing it to deny sheep and the opponent's safe food source in the future. It's time to make a mosque. Keep scouting for sheep. You can press Ctrl-Shift-A to see how many you've got. Most maps have 12 sheep. We'll go 9 on food, and once we've got 9 on food, we send everything else to wood in order to start getting more wood so that we can expand our infrastructure in the future. I like to put Mosque on control group 0 and immediately start efficient production and any other upgrades. I like to go XAS order. Okay, we almost have enough to make our landmark. Now we have. We take 3 villagers and we make the Dome of Faith. Note that it's slightly before the 3-minute mark. This is a nice target to target for. It could be 252, it could be 302, but roughly before the 3-minute mark. Then everything now goes to wood. We make another house when we can, and then we start a barracks. The house can be made to create an artificial choke, just a little bit, that can stop enemy knights from getting to our gold villagers as easily. So try to build it around your gold mining camp as the highest priority. Queue up enough villagers so that you never have a gap. I put my Dome of the Faith on control group 8, and it's really nice when you can build it right next to the mosque so that there's no travel time for your scholars to start upgrading your upgrade speed, your research speed. Bring all the sheep back. We got 16, which is obviously a lot. That's 2/3 of the sheep available. You're not going to get as many against a real player. Then you put scouts on either side of his base. If you're against Mongols, you check for tower rushes around your wood line. If you're against Abbasid, you're checking for stone. Are they taking a second town center before getting aggressive? Against French, you want to see if they are gathering gold with a lot of villagers or just a few. Okay, let's make a barracks. We want to connect our mill, so we make the barracks here. We immediately start a scholar. We immediately cancel all upgrades on the mosque and then start XCAS. Here we get Q, here we get W, and on mining camp we get Q as well. So we start all the economy upgrades immediately. If you're against French, get textiles the moment you can. It's gonna slow down your next villager by a bit, but the bonus health will be incredibly helpful. The 2 villagers on gold means you can make non-stop scholars, as they generate about 75 gold per minute. And yeah, you're gonna pretty much have non-stop scholar production. Okay, the barracks finishes. You always start this when you can, but you can also say, and especially against French, a couple of spears first, put a scholar inside, check for when his knights are harassing. It's 5:30, there could be knights on you very soon. Put your spears on the most likely attack path. You need 2 per area that you want to defend against knights. So it's very sensible to just immediately get something like 4 spears. And we put 2 spears here, and then we start the upgrade. The extra health on... And now it would be normal usually to bring a scout back to check the left of your base or the right of your base, so you can kind of rule out an attack path in either direction. Okay, I also like to get a stables into French. You can get any of these upgrades. It can be attack upgrade, can be ranged armor. Usually ranged armor. For Delhi, upgrades take a while, so it can be very sensible to start planning for the future. So like right now, melee attack is the most useful because I have spears and soon we'll have horsemen. But in the future, ranged armor is going to be better. I'm going to make another mosque. Ranged armor is going to be better because he's going to counter spears with archers normally. So even though now it may seem wise to get melee, maybe you want to open up with iron undermesh, which in general is the highest value upgrade in the game from the blacksmith. The moment you're not mass producing, immediately take your scholar out of the mosque, out of the barracks, and just put it back when you're thinking of mass producing again. You can also put it in the stables to make a bunch of horses, and this is really just for map control and chasing enemy knights, so that the spears can win against knights, but the horsemen are out mobilizing the knights, so that when they're low, you can finish them off. Note that when I have about 12 to 14 villagers on wood, what I like to do is put 2 on stone. This is going to give me the option to start building outposts at sacred sites, and then get arrow emplacements. Arrow emplacements tend to dominate early game. I'm gonna leave these spears here on my resources, and I'm gonna take these spears at the front of my base together with the horsemen. And I'm gonna bring them with me to protect some outpost building. The goal here is to invest as little as possible into actual gold gathering. Focus on food, wood, and stone economy, whatever. Especially food and wood. And then allow the sacred sites to be the gold generation that you require in order to tech to tier 3. Delhi is strongest in Castle Age, so we focus on that. Try not to abuse your all army hotkey. Okay, the moment you see spears and barracks, which of course our scout had scouted, you can always respond with an archery range. We're gonna take this one out, and then we're gonna make an archery range. Generally, make your buildings to the back of your make the buildings to the back of your base unit production, not to the front, because they are a primary ram takeout target. We're building up a large food economy. We need a decent amount minimum on wood, and then we're going to build a large food economy because we are expecting to get good results from the sacred sites. And if we already have the food, then the gold that we get from the sites, get arrow slits, can immediately be used to tech to tier 3. In order to make use of tier 3, we need unit infrastructure, and we need enough food. Wood can be used for unit infrastructure. Now I'm gonna make some archers. Wood is used for building infrastructure, but Delhi doesn't need as many because of the scholar mechanic. If you need to, you can build some outposts at home. The gold that you get from the sites is going to help you to make arrow slits there, and any upgrades that you may, yeah, especially arrow slits cost you gold. He's attacking my scholar. Can use scholar for healing. It's actually really helpful. Okay, so now we have this one. Immediately send the scholar back. Find another berry bush. Always make an outpost there as well to save them. Try to no more send than five villagers. Send no more than 5. Because that's how much you can keep safe with a singular outpost. Okay, he's done as well. Bring him back. Don't get housed like I just did. If you want, you can do additional upgrades like the fortify outpost. It costs 100 wood, but it gives them fire armor and health. It's really helpful to keep them safe. Gonna make a bunch of archers from this one. I always like to make another lumber camp in front when there's space, as it makes it more efficient. Okay, let's say that we cancel all this. We've got plenty of gold now from the sites, so we're actually going to pull all villagers off of gold and put them on something else. Now it would be time for your scout to see what he's going for. And we can decide whether we go for House of Learning or Compound. Both are actually good. Let's say that we see that he's doing lots of archers. We would go House of Learning and Men-at-Arms. But let's say he's going for... Let's say he's going for lots of Men-at-Arms. We can also decide to do a lot of stone walling. Both really very viable. I like to always just leave 2 villagers on gold. You can make a 3rd mosque when you have availability for it. And then, since we're going House of Learning, we're focusing on Barracks. So we're going to focus on Barracks. We're going to fill all our production with scholars. Right. And then we're going to go Men-at-Arms. And we're going to just use every building we have to make something. Let's say that we're getting arrow slits here, or we can wait till tier 3 is done. We can go for... I'll make another blacksmith. Wait till tier 3 is done, and then we can go for springled emplacements, which is really nice into knights. Okay, we reached tier 3. The first thing you want to do always, press F4. Get all your economy upgrades. Press your blacksmiths. Get military academy, which is fantastic. Then we're gonna get ranged armor, and then you get everything else. Okay, we've got that started now. Keep making scholars to go into the mosque. Press your mosque, get your swiftness upgrade, right? Okay, make sure you have enough house economy. And now we're gonna make Men-at-Arms, we're gonna make some knights, and we're gonna make some crossbows. That's what we're doing. The walls are coming. Springled emplacement, which is nice against knight run-bys. Now, in theory, we've been fighting over sacred sites. That always gets skipped a bit when we are doing one of these instructional videos against AI. If you want to be really on top of things, you make sure that your scholars are all in position to snag up relics all over on the map. Not sending them once you reach castle, but actually already there. And the moment House of Learning finishes, you press RQWE in this order. RQWE, which is going to be great. Now, 4 on stone is just perfect. That's going to slowly get us some advantages. Now, every knight that finishes, you can send them to protect your scholars. You can make outposts sometimes when required. It's going to de-stress you a lot. You can get spearman upgrade if you need. Try not to go for veteran archer upgrade at all. That's almost never worth it for Delhi. Now, here's a tip. Try to put every single relic in the same mosque. That's a big tip, because there's an annoying interaction that I'm not going to explain too much right now. There's an annoying interaction where things that are like when you rally your scholars, they end up like taking out the relic every time. So take all the relic monks and put it in the same one, basically. Okay, once you've got men-at-arms, you can go for an attack. Make sure to keep working on those houses. You can also start working on some farms if you've been gathering good. We bring all these back to the same mosque. And then make sure that that mosque that you're bringing the relics back in also has 3 out of 3. We try not to interact with that anymore to prevent us from accidentally taking out relics, basically. Now, usually at this time in the game, I really like to make a second town center. I typically don't try to go for Imperial at all with Delhi, because you just don't get that much out of it as a Delhi player. Send knights to different places for harassment. Men-at-arms are your main army. And now I'm going to make that second town center. I really, really like it. It just gives a little bit of extra resilience to pressure when you've got that going. The monks are fast now. That's nice. We're going to fill up the rest of our barracks. Okay, these are both bringing back the relics. I typically always take a town center between the 9 and 15 minute mark, basically. And that's what that non-stop stone gets me. And I've had a lot of success with that. Okay, now we're gonna fill up this. You can either... It's very easy to afford springles because of your gold income. Of course, you won't always have this much. But you can easily add Siege Workshop and going springles. You'll slow down the game if you do so, if you go for Siege Workshops. If you don't want to slow down the game, instead you could go for like lots of knights. The House of Learning upgrade that gives bonus damage to men-at-arms also works for knights. So you can definitely keep the speed in the game, buy food, get lots of men-at-arms. Right, and then keep building farms. Farms are extremely valuable for Delhi because you've got all those economy upgrades. So they're much more valuable for Delhi than for some factions. In theory, we don't have as much gold as we actually have because of the enemies stealing back sites, but they also have to make an investment in it. So it's never quite for free for them to stop you. So it's actually not that big of a deal. Imagine that I have less gold now, I still would have more than enough, you see. So now you just kind of see, okay, what are they making? How do we need to adapt? If you have excess buildings, you can start getting these upgrades just in case. And that's kind of Delhi, really. Now, the cool thing is, if you have a Compound of the Defender, you can make keeps for 600 stone. And then I really recommend you to get the Village Fortresses upgrade that allows you to turn keeps into town centers. This is very, very powerful because you can now train villagers from keeps. And the cool thing is, if you put them in the same control group with a town center, even though they normally have different hotkeys in the grid setup, when you press villager, it actually counts it as a villager production on both. So the devs after the first patch made it really easy to use keep village fortresses. And Mosque connection to a keep will also allow you to get that bonus reduction of time of the research of village fortresses, so that you can actually play a playstyle with the Compound of the Defender, not House of Learning, where you play defensively, you get a bunch of keeps, maybe even a lot of keeps, and you use those as town center, so that you spend 600 stone per town center. It just needs a bit of time to get going, whereas a second town center immediately gets going. But in return, you've got a keep with a capacity of 15, good defensive capabilities, and so on. And if you have 9 scholars going in 3 different mosques, it's going to finish pretty fast, that village fortress upgrade. You can even, with that Compound of the Defender, make a bunch of stone walls, get stone towers in front, and really turtle up and get those juicy Delhi upgrades going. Still aiming for a Castle Age timing attack, and not for Imperial, as Imperial doesn't offer Delhi that much right now. But you've got now one town center, you've got 2 keeps, you finish that upgrade, you make a bunch of villagers, you've got level 2 economy upgrade of every kind. You've got crossbows and archers behind stone walls. You're getting mangonels to protect from behind stone walls, and mangoes can shoot over stone wall, but enemy springles cannot. So your mangonels are actually safe. And they can be built by infantry, which is amazing. So now you've got infantry building stone walls, you've got a bunch of keeps, and then you make a couple of elephants, maybe 2 to 4 tower war elephants, the ranged ones. You go in with 6 mangonels, and then loads of men-at-arms. You don't need any stables units for this. And then you inch forward with stone walls and mangonels. It's a very powerful playstyle, a little bit harder to play, but very, very strong. And the cool thing is, Delhi really has 2 very powerful landmarks. Both House of Learning as well as the Compound of the Defender are incredibly helpful. Finally, I mentioned one thing. I said that Imperial doesn't offer Delhi that much. It's kind of true. Most upgrades take 22 minutes without the debuff of the House of the Mosques. You can, of course, bring that down a lot. If you've got 12, 15, or even 20 scholars going in Mosques, you can have shorter research times. But going Imperial is almost never worth it if you still have to wait 10 minutes for the first payoff. It's too risky. I have one more thing to mention about that comment I made, how Imperial is not super useful for Delhi. Because all the research takes so long, you have a very slow effect from it. There's really 2 things that you immediately gain from Imperial Age Delhi, and it is bombards and hand cannons. If it's bombards you need, the ultimate base raising machine, then Imperial is still worth it. If you're rich, you've got the resources, but rams and trebuchets and mangonels just won't cut it to kill enemy buildings, keeps or fortified positions, bombards are your go-to. And hand cannons are like a more supply efficient alternative to crossbows. So if you're looking at 3,000 food and 4,000 gold, you can go Imperial and start investing in hand cannons. Hope that clarifies it. So instead, try to channel your power in Sacred Site control, Castle Age control. You can hit early from a single town center, no second TC at all. You can go 2 different landmarks, you can get keeps. I like to do a slower playstyle that still harasses and attacks but doesn't go all in. But you can 100% go all in, and here's how. Empty all your mosques, bring all of your scholars, have a few elephants, lots of men-at-arms, bunch of archers and crossbows, and then you just park your scholars in the middle of your army, making sure not to attack move with your scholars alongside with the rest of your army. And then the healing, the sheer healing that they put out, can be a very powerful straight thrust into the enemy territory to take them out, and it's the feared Delhi Castle Age push. Delhi are a somewhat complicated but incredibly fun and fascinating civilization to play, with lots of different strategical options. I covered one part of a build order here, but there's still so much more to discover. This cannot be comprehensive, or it would take so many hours, but I hope you have a great starting point to start enjoying Delhi on the ladder. Good luck, Commanders.